Hi again. My name is Robert Thomas DeVincentis, and I'm the author of the Book of Kings, where we discuss aftermath science. And this is located in the book, which I'm about to show you, and I've showed you many times. It's in the Book of Kings, and it shows In God We Trust, because this is a Christian nation. Shows my name. And today we'll be discussing no life in outer space, no water on any comet brought life to Earth. Wow. That is completely contradictory to what you're going to hear in your schools and everything else. That's because science, modern science to the degree, has hijacked your understanding of the cosmos and the place where we live. So how is it that happens? Well, it happens, and I've explained earlier in other talks, that the discussion of, the cosmos in relationship to God creating it is not going to be there. They could say that, but that's not what they're teaching. And that would fall completely outside of the circle of all these scientists that believe that. There was an intelligent design theory that came along, that the cosmos couldn't be put together by some big bang that happened, and then everything turns out to be so uniquely orderly and everything else. So now they're claiming that Big Bang Theory is defunct because they have a greater telescope that noticed other galaxies further out. I mean, this goes on, and of course we were captured into this crazy theory for probably close to 100 years. And now they're saying no, and then why should we believe them on anything else? So at any rate, on the TV, if you watch TV, you'll get all kinds of crazy notions with people that, the dynamics of modern science to be able to capture and take stuff off of a comet and bring it back, and then say that the dust particles on it are very certainly the same kind of thing that brought life to the Earth and so forth. But I had gone over all that stuff, that is not true, that the elements alone can't bring forth life, and that God is the only author. And, with all these things that can't be explained, you think that they would come to the conclusion that there really is a God, because God said that, in his word anyway, that the world was made from nothing. So this is what you're going to find out there. And we spoke about King Solomon saying the same thing, who was the smartest man in the world. And his sayings are encapsulated into the Holy Bible. If you ever want to read something that's really mind-blowing, read some of his stuff that he wrote about. And these are things that are beyond what any scientist by today's realm is going to come to that conclusion. And then we have Moses. And again, we talked about this, that Moses was God's chosen person to lead the Israelites. And of course, one of the books, or the first book that he wrote, was on Genesis. And then it encapsulates God's creation in the 7-day period that he was creating and then resting on the seventh day. So anyway, we went all through this, and I've explained, and again, I said I'm a historian of historical origins on 4 subjects: science, nature, man, and God. And that I'm uniquely only person that I know of, and a lot of stuff that you hear on these talks are uniquely to me. Nobody else's reasoning has come to that conclusion. But I will tell you, point blank, that there is no such thing as a copyright on truth. So if it is true, then the truth would be known. So if I said, hey, 40 years ago and wrote about it, that there was no Big Bang Theory, that it was a crazy response, and now they're saying it wasn't there. Well, then who's smarter? The guy that I'm talking about? If you read my book, if it's here for 1,000 years, it's a 1,000-year book, by the way. Whatever's in that book is going to come true as far as what I believe. And they're going to say hundreds of years from now, how did I know these things? Well, I'm not smarter than you. I did tell everybody that you're smarter than AI or quantum AI because you were made in the image of God. And eventually in time, as God reveals himself and then enters into his own creation via the woman, the Virgin Mary, now we have the God-man. And of course, nothing in the universe can exceed that. So your intelligence is really great. And, let's face it, I've seen all this stuff on TV, how everybody's paranoid about this and that. Yes, you can feed computers with knowledge, the whole libraries of knowledge. And of course, that would exceed your capacity to know all those things. But they can't come to the conclusion, even though they say AI can write and it might have some kind of unique understanding or whatever. It can only know those things that are fed into it. It can't come to the assumptions or the conclusion that if I said, well, Earth is the oldest object in the whole entire solar system and the heavens, you would say, oh, that can't be true. All our scientists, no, they're wrong. Because if you look at Genesis, there's a chronological order that Earth was created first, and then only one day. Science is so enamored with the cosmos now, but they don't realize, even though it is a big thing, it shows you the miraculous power of God to make stuff. But there's more stuff here on Earth. So there was an implosion of creation here on Earth, which exceeds the explosion there. So what are we talking about today? We're talking about no life in outer space. So how can we come to that conclusion? Well, we have a God that wants you to know him. And from what I believe, that was down through the centuries as revealed to Moses in starting in the final, that he was the God and he chose Israel and so forth to have that knowledge. And then in time, even from the Garden of Eden, a man was waiting for the Messiah to come. And eventually that Messiah comes through the chosen people of God, the Jews. And of course, in Christianity, we believe that Jesus Christ really is true God, true man, and that the whole purpose of God was not to leave us orphans or to abandon us to the cosmos or have you worry about the things that he made here on earth that are for your enjoyment. And of course, our good stewardship too. So we have to take care of those things. So if we say no life in outer space, how could I come to that conclusion? Well, God came here to this planet. He was there with the Jews, and he came back in the form of man through Jesus Christ, who's the Word of God, by the way, who's an incarnate, and that's part of the Holy Trinity, and also the mechanics of he was in the world, and the world was made by him, but the world knew him not. So there you have it, spoken of in Holy Scriptures, which is the truth about Christ, which there's a big problem with that today. Okay, but I'm a historian, not a theologian. But again, I have to know about those things. So if God comes here, he doesn't want your attention being taken away from this planet where you're thinking, oh, there's other planets and there's other superior people out there that are greater than us and they're going to do this, that, and the other. And that's a fallacy that will never, ever, ever happen. Hasn't happened in my lifetime, and I'm already 74 years old. But you see, this is what science is portraying. And so if God was here and he said that he just created these things and he's talking about this is the land of the living, the earth, that he made these things here. Well, he did not make things out there. Been through this again. Nobody's filing anything in our solar system without any planets. There's nothing there. I wrote about this, and guess what? They've had probes, they've had landings on Mars, and these little things running around looking for stuff. There's nothing there. I could have told them before they spent their first dollar. And that's the same thing in the entire cosmos. Well, you say, well, how do you know what God made? And I'd say, well, how do you know what God made? The fact of the matter is you will never, ever know in your lifetime, but you'll be caught up with modern science giving you the wildest explanations on how you're endangered with all these different planets that God made that were supposed to be good. And so that's it. So if God just made the things here on Earth and he came here, this is the planet of consequence and time, which can't be really explained by man because it's beyond his comprehension. I don't care what scientist says he could do it. He can't do it. I don't care if he has a telescope that says, oh, look how big that is. Now we're going to have to recalculate. No, you can't. You can't recalculate to say how old things are, especially if what if God is saying is true and you should believe it, that it was made out of nothing. So you can't come to the conclusion. The only logical conclusion is that that these things were made by God, and because we can't explain time, space, the number of stars, and these types of things adequately, outside of coming up with some wild imaginary theories, then that's what you're going to have. So the other day, I was watching TV, and they caught up to this object in space and was able to take some particles from it and then bring it back. And this is where science is never going to give the credence to God for his creation. It says that God created the animals, and I'm the one that says that these things all have a predisposition built into them at the time of creation. Man and woman were made whole, and after that brought about the human race. So it's a predisposition already built into the things that you can obviously look around with yourself and see those things. So what is taking the place of God in your mind, bringing you further and further away from that? Well, by saying things like Comet brought water here and it brought about life. No, we already discussed that there's no elements in the entire universe that can bring about life. You can alter pre-existing life on Earth, but you can't make new life from any elements that are found outside of this planet. You're not going to do it. It's just not going to happen. And this is, again, where science is leading you down the wrong path, which are things that are never going to happen to you. So now instead of believing that God created all the animals and things and stuff, which he did, and then gave everything a predisposition into it, and that's what aftermath science is to the degree that I am explaining it, and I am the author of Aftermath Science. That's what you're going to find. So there is no comet taking the place of God creating, taking millions and millions of years beyond man's ability to understand or even comprehend what's being said by these scientists today. Call them modern science. Yes, they have great works and things that they've done, but when it comes to understanding the mechanics, and all these things lead you to a pit, a big downfall, where man and his capabilities can clone things and do these kinds of things. But can he really improve on something that was made by God? Does it have a secondary, like a donkey and a horse to make a mule? There's no offspring off of that. Generally, you're not going to find anything like that. So these are one-time events. They're like hybrids that possibly can be done. But what about a hybrid person? What if all of a sudden they're taking cells and using the petri dish to make things or implant things? What if something's made out of the human DNA recipe that God uses to make man and woman who they really are? Aren't you tampering with something that you shouldn't be doing? Aren't you usurping and saying that you're better than the economy of God? That's a fallacy, and again, that's wrong, and there's a danger in that. That's the lab out of control, where they don't realize that life is an important issue here on earth as human beings, and that life is a sacred thing. So again, those commandments that we talked about and the physical laws are the secondary to the written commandments, and I went through all that in other talks. So what is the reasoning behind me telling you all these things? Well, again, to bring you back to earth where you belong, to realize that you're only going to be on this earth a short time. And by the way, instead of millions and billions of years, God proclaims that he made a short work of what you're seeing right now. And, 13 billion now, 20 billion tomorrow years, would you consider that a short work by God? I don't think so. No, this world is going to come to an end, because this is not the final place. God has another place. And it has to do with the heavenly Jerusalem, where that's going to come down from heaven, and God's going to abide with his people forever. And they'll be the light. They'll be the light that you see, God. And his apostles, the 12 apostles of Jesus Christ, are foundationals. The gates, the course is a stone, and the course Christ is the cornerstone. But all the prophets that were spoken of in the Old Testament. So the Old Testament and New Testament, the New Testament is the new covenant. That's the body and blood of Christ. And from the Catholic Church, and I explained this before, whether people want to embrace it or not, I'm a historian of historical origins, and one of those subjects is God. So I have to be able to explain the church, even though technically I'm not an ordained minister of the word. But the people and the people that I learned this stuff from and the people that I learned it from exceed any scientist on the face of the earth. If you want to compare today's scientists to those that might have appeared at one time or another in history, well, then go back to Moses, because the Egyptians, what a wonderful, great society. I don't know about the wonderful part of it, but I'm just saying that society was incredible with their knowledge and how they could do things and all those things. But they had magicians. They were Pharaoh's magicians. And where did they fail? They failed when they bumped up against those that were sent by God, Moses and Aaron, to deliver the children of Israel out of the grasp of Egypt, where at one time they enjoyed good health and prosperity, but then they were made slaves. So, right, this is your information. This is your history about yourself, where you get it. If you want to come here, get the book. I'm not here to sell a book, but if you would like to get that book, you could probably get it on Amazon, and then you can enjoy reading it. And it might be a difficult read, but it was meant to be simple, but it's complex too at the same time. So anyway, I wish you a good evening, and I hope to talk to you again. Thank you.